Hello, spooky friends, and welcome to another episode of Scaryish.
Woo!
I'm Robin Grace. This is Adam Diaz.
Hello.
He's all right. And we
thanks.
are here to talk about some cool topics.
Indeed we are. I am pretty excited about my topic. It was suggested to me by our wonderful folks over in Discord. So thank you to everyone who tossed up some topic suggestions. What are you going to be covering this week, Robin?
I am going to be covering the Hoia-Baciu Forest.
Right on. That sounds super, super interesting.
Thanks.
We've covered some forests before. I don't think that one's among them, so it'll be fun to hear about that. I am going to be going into the 6th installment of Haunted Hollywood. So I'm pretty excited about that. And I think I'm going to be the one that goes first this episode, if I'm not mistaken.
Cool. You do you, Ger.
Right on. So just a quick reminder before I jump into this, if you folks would like to send us any stories that you have that are paranormal, creepy, spooky, true crime, whatever the case may be, we would love to hear them. Robin, where can folks send those stories?
So you can send them to storytime@scaryish.com. That is our email. You can also go to our website, scaryish.com. There's a contact us page. You just fill out that form. It sends it to us that way. And we have a whole bunch of social media. So Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that fun stuff. Yeah.
Indeed. So we would love to hear from you folks. This week I am going to be covering Haunted Hollywood 6, but before I jump into my topic, I want to go ahead and make sure I get this documented on the air. So last night I totally wound up having a dream that I got a test for COVID-19 and it came back that I had it, and I was put in like quarantine immediately, and then all of a sudden I was like out in the city and I realized like, oh my god, I have to quarantine. I'm like in the middle of like some big celebration. It's like it was New Year's. And I was like, I am infecting people actively. It was this really, really messed up dream. So I'm pretty sure the reason I had that dream is because while I was sleeping, I woke up and I wasn't feeling well during the night. And that sort of general feeling like just filtered into what my dream wound up being. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
So I just wanted this documented in the show because I haven't felt great all day. And if it turns out that I do have COVID-19, I just want to say I totally predicted it. It happened in my dream first. And I am basically a psychic. If not, JK, LOL. But yeah, it was just a really, really weird dream. And then today I've been feeling like crap. So I've been like, is that dream going to come true? But obviously, not. Because there's not like, New Year's going on right now.
Oh, all right.
So there you go. That's in there. This week, as far as the topics go, I really wanted to cover something that was a bit more fun than normal. Something that wasn't as heavy as topics can be, but I will be the first one to admit that I have failed miserably at that. What I did succeed at, though, was reaching out to our community, like I mentioned, for some suggestions on what you folks wanted to hear. A few things did come up a lot, and one of those things is my personal favorite, which is Haunted Hollywood. So without further ado, I present to you Haunted Hollywood 6, Rosemary's Baby. I'd like to first point out that this is one of those wonderful movies in the Haunted Hollywood segment that I have not personally seen.
Yeah, I've never seen it.
I've only ever seen bits and pieces of it. I do know a little bit about it, mainly that it was a book first. After doing some research, I realized it was written by a guy named Ira Levin.
What is it even about?
It's about the Antichrist.
Oh, all right.
So, unlike the majority of films that are made based on books, though, the film is actually a really faithful adaptation. And how do I know that if I've never seen it? Well, I'm trusting Ira Levin, the author of the book, who stated it is, quote, the single most faithful adaptation of a novel ever to come out of Hollywood. So that is really high praise.
Interesting.
So I have this segment that says, what's the movie about? Robin already asked. It's about a woman named Rosemary who has a baby. And that's it. Thank you for listening, everyone. That was Haunted Hollywood, number 6. Just kidding. I thought you would laugh at that, but you're not going to.
It's not funny.
It is funny. You're just stupid tonight. As most of you likely already know or can guess if you haven't seen it or have kind of heard about, the movie's about the Antichrist. It's a very common topic for a show in the Haunted Hollywood segment. I will say this, though. Rosemary's Baby came out in 1968. That would be 5 years before The Exorcist and 8 years before The Omen. So this one is kind of like the movie that paved the way for future iterations of movies that deal directly with evil, the devil, possession, things like that, which wasn't really that popular on the main screen. Or the silver screen. I don't know what the idiom is. The big screen. There we go. I nailed it. So it's not shocking to hear that plenty of folks were very upset with the movie when it came out, and they were very upset with its content, primarily the Catholic Church, who actually gave the movie a, quote, C rating, which apparently stands for condemned. They stated they were issuing the rating for the, quote, mockery of religious persons and practices. And I'm sure they didn't like the fact that the novel itself was written by someone who is raised Jewish, but was a self-proclaimed atheist, and the main character was Catholic as well, so that definitely caught the attention of the Catholic Church. The book wasn't slammed as harshly. In fact, a lot of the reviews I read from when it came out praised it. They said it was incredible, but it did receive a fair amount of negative press as well. When the book was published in Spain and translated into Spanish, they cut any passages that, quote, glorified Satan. I did a little checking around, too, to see like when it was that they finally released a like fully updated version of Rosemary's Baby, and turns out they never did. You can actually purchase the English version of the book in Spain now, but an official Spanish translation of the book has not been created as of April 2019.
That's crazy.
So if you're reading a Spanish version of that book from Spain, it actually doesn't have a lot of the things in it that were supposed to be in it just because it was censored. I also didn't know that Spain was under a dictator for like 20, 30 years. And that's when this book came out, was during that, and the dictatorship made sure that it was censored very heavily. And I was like, wow, this happened before my time, and I just don't remember hearing about this in history class at all.
So no one's ever decided, like, well, since we don't have to anymore, let's just redo it.
I think it's because the dictatorship ended like 10, 15 years after the book came out, and at that point, more important things were happening. So they were like, let's not go back through and re-edit a lot of these books, but they're able to buy the original copies that contain the content that was banned, so it's just not in the native language. There might be unofficial translations, but nothing that I really could confirm. So the movie that was made off of the book would contain more of the content that was in the book than the Spanish version actually did. The director of the movie was extremely accurate, only removing small parts for the sake of editing things out for time. In fact, the director of the film and the writer of the book worked together to make sets of what the apartments that some of the movie takes place in would look like. Ira Levin, the writer, even gave layout details for furniture and room orientation based off of how he pictured it when he was writing the book that were incorporated into the movie.
That's kind of cool.
It's really cool. Like, with so much collaboration and dedication to the source material, like, what could go wrong? Well, some stuff would go wrong. It obviously wouldn't be a haunted Hollywood if stuff did not go wrong.
But it's not as bad as The Exorcist or anything like that?
Well, we'll get there.
All right.
So, the director of the movie did not get along with multiple people in the film. Paramount among them was his male lead, John Cassavetes. The studio also got pissed at the director for production delays. They're saying that the attention to detail that he put into the movie was causing significant delays to the filming schedule, which caused a lot of friction. That said, it's not really part of a curse if your movie falls behind schedule or you're not getting along with one of your leads. If that was the case, then basically every movie ever made would be cursed, because I think they all wind up falling behind schedule, and there's always tension somewhere. It is said that he got along well with his female lead and the main star of the film, Mia Farrow. And what I know about Mia Farrow, just when I see that name, the first thing that pops into my head is that she was the girlfriend of Woody Allen when I was a kid, and her adopted daughter eventually went on to date Woody Allen and became and is still Woody Allen's wife.
Yeah, I knew that part.
So that was like scandalous when I was a kid. That's what I remembered Woody Allen and Mia Farrow from, is that they were together, then all of a sudden he was dating the daughter, and I read up on it a little bit now because I saw that. I was like, oh, let's see more about this, and it turns out that he had met her daughter the first time he had met her when she was 10 years old.
Ew.
So it's just really, really creepy when you take that detail into account. Actually, it's just really creepy no matter what. So Mia Farrow, circa 1968, though, had a different significant other, some dude named, I think I'm getting this right, Frank Sinatra. So believe it or not, this is sort of where the curse, quote-unquote, starts. Although it's not exactly supernatural, it's chronologically the first thing I can find that seems to have a massive impact on the lives of those involved. But again, curses may just be a bunch of tragic coincidences, so take these things we're about to run through with a grain of salt. So when Mia Farrow got the script and was in the running for the part of Rosemary's Baby's mom, otherwise known as Rosemary, she shared the script.
I was going to say, like, why didn't you just say Rosemary?
She shared the script with her then husband, Frank Sinatra.
Wow.
It wasn't just her boyfriend. She was married to Frank Sinatra.
Just go fancy.
So Frank Sinatra reads the script and tells her, quote, "I can't see you in it."
Rude.
Which is just a dick thing to say. Now, Old Blue Eyes may have had ulterior motives on this one. And yes, I did finally look up who was Old Blue Eyes. And it is Frank Sinatra. Thank you, everyone, for yelling at me when I'm pretty sure I said it was Dean Martin last time. Which was like 50 or 60 episodes. I tried to look back and see which episode I fucked it up on. I was like, nah, let's just move forward on that one. So despite his lack of faith in his wife, apparently, or the source material matching what his wife's acting capabilities were, Farrow eventually does get offered this role, and she accepts it. And Sinatra didn't dwell long, because he was actually making a movie himself. And by making, I mean he was starring in it. He was the male lead of the movie The Detective. And this is where the ulterior motives kind of kick in, why I think he was shitty about it. So Mia Farrow was supposed to have a role in The Detective as well.
Oh, what?
It wasn't the female lead. She just had a part in it.
Okay.
And remember how I said that the director of Rosemary's Baby was in trouble with the studio for schedule delays?
Yeah.
Well, these movies were filming, like, simultaneously.
Oh, my God.
And she was supposed to be in the other one on days where she was actually filming Rosemary's Baby. And Rosemary's Baby was filmed in New York at a very famous hotel.
So she had to fly back and forth to film
she was
it?
going back and forth between L.A. and New York. I just said that they filmed it in a famous hotel. They filmed parts of it near a famous hotel. A lot of the actual apartments, though, were sets. So, okay. That's important, though. Remember that hotel. Don't let me forget. I forgot to put it in my script, but that's a really, really important detail.
All right.
Remember hotel when I get to the end of this. If we don't do that, I want everyone to tweet and yell at me and be like, what was that last thing you were supposed to tell me? Okay. She's flying back and forth, and it's taking a toll on her. She's exhausted, and it's taking a toll on her marriage. And Frank Sinatra tells her, apparently very famously, that she has to choose. She has to choose between Rosemary's Baby or her husband. Side note, pretty dick move. She wasn't even apparently the female lead in The Detective, and he's not even saying pick between the movies. He's saying you can either pick that movie or you can pick me.
Sounds like a douchebag.
Yeah. And she's like the lead actor in Rosemary's Baby. And in the end, whether she actually quote-unquote chose or she just made it clear that Rosemary's Baby was a bigger or more important role for her, Rosemary's Baby would end up becoming her priority and she would drop out of The Detective. So Frank Sinatra did what any reasonable, loving husband would do. He sent his personal lawyer to the set of Rosemary's Baby, where his personal lawyer hand-delivered her divorce papers.
What?
Walked
an
onto
asshole.
the set and gave her divorce papers, and she signed them, quote, in a blur of tears, and then went back in front of the camera for the next scene that they were going to be filming.
That is so fucked up.
And that's how her marriage ended to Frank Sinatra. Like, literally during filming of a scene of Rosemary's Baby. So, I don't know if this is the fault of the movie, Rosemary's Baby, or if it was just an unreasonable ultimatum to be put on her by a shitty husband.
Doesn't Frank Sinatra have a history of being
a womanizer?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I didn't really look into it. I didn't get too far down that rabbit hole because there was plenty of them to fall down on this movie curse.
Okay.
But yeah, maybe we can do the curse of Frank Sinatra's ex-wives or something like that.
What?
But I have heard that he was kind of a dick. But I don't know really where to chalk this one up. I can just say that either way, she went into the movie married, and she would finish filming the movie single. And that sucks. No one really wants that unless you're the person filing for divorce, I suppose. So she wasn't the only one to lose her marriage during the film either. Ira Levin, the author who wrote the book, had a kind of messy divorce that was done behind closed doors because he is a very private person, as a lot of famous authors are. And his divorce was finalized during the creation of the movie. He and his ex-wife apparently never released any details of their divorce, but I did see on one website where they postulated that despite the fact he never spoke of it, it is a bit telling because his next novel that was published was The Stepford Wives, which they think he took inspiration from his divorce and just sort of like qualities he saw in his wife. But that's all pure speculation. So,
Stepford Wives, is that the one about the robots?
It's the one I've never seen the Stepford Wives. I just know they're all like identical. The most recent iteration, I'm pretty sure, had Nicole Kidman in it.
Yeah, it's like this couple moves to this town, and all the wives are exactly the same, and they're like these trophy wives, and it's because their husbands replaced them with robots.
Wow.
So
that sounds right.
We should watch it.
We should watch it.
Yeah.
Put it on the slate. So during the filming of the movie, though, someone named Sidney Blackmer did state, quote, "No good will come of all this Hail Satan business," which is weird to be coming from him because he was the person playing the leader of the coven in the movie who is worshiping the devil.
What?
So I'm sure his concerns about that content evaporated when he was cashing the check for that dirty money.
Cha-ching!
Which he seemed okay taking. Another man who did not have as prominent a role in the film, unless you consider, quote, man by payphone a big role, did wind up believing that the movie was cursed. And I think this is sort of where the curse starts to get generated from. So once filming had concluded, this man, who is named William Castle, would be the next to fall victim to the film's curse. In fairness to him, he wasn't really an actor, so I shouldn't shit on him for having such a small role. He was actually a producer and a director as well. Just not a very famous actor because he was usually behind the scenes. And he was uncredited for this film. He was just there because he was producing it.
Cool.
And he was like, I'll just stand by the payphone or whatever.
Yeah.
So he was also a director, just not for this particular movie that was fairly well known in Hollywood. There's a lot of people who are famous that were hanging around the set because they had some sort of connection to the film. The director's wife is also said to be like one of the ghostly apparitions in the background in the film.
Really?
We'll get to that later. So William Castle, along with plenty of people who had been part of the movie, started to receive hate mail after it came out. A lot of negative attention. Obviously, it deals with...
Okay. Hate mail because of the religion aspect of it.
So they,
okay.
Anyone who has anything to do with stuff like that just gets a ton of negative press, and then they get a ton of negative emails. They get a ton of negative mail. And that stress is part of the reason he would develop severe kidney stones. Now, I say severe...
Stress can give you kidney stones?
Absolutely it can.
Really?
Poor diet, stress, a variety of other things as well. But he winds up being hospitalized due to them. Now, I know several folks who have had kidney stones, and they really, really fucking hurt. And if you're a dude, the way to pass them is almost always naturally, I guess, is the best way to put it.
That's how it is for everyone. You have to naturally pass it.
Exactly. But dudes have a longer way to travel. It comes out of your wiener, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You pee it out. So here's the thing, though. You pee them out. As a man, it's as close to childbirth as far as pain as you're ever going to get. Side note, shout out to women for having a significantly higher pain tolerance. But this is said to be one of the, if not the most painful thing a man can experience. They equate it to childbirth because some of these stones that you get inside you are large, dude. Like anything over 4 millimeters has less than a 20% chance of actually passing. The 80% is that it never moves and it just keeps hurting you or gets stuck while you're trying to pass it. I was looking at stones and I put side note. I think kidney stone isn't an accurate description because, yeah, some of them look like stones. Most of them look like jagged, gravelly rock. It's like I've never really been so horrified than looking at some of these things and realizing it looks like a cornflake covered in like multiple dragon horns, and thinking that you're going to have to pee that out just makes me hurt thinking about it. So anyways, the stones William Castle develops were not only severe enough to cause a hospitalization, he was not able to pass them in any way, shape, or form. He wound up requiring surgery for them to be removed from his body. So it means they are likely very enormous and incredibly painful. They had him on tons of pain medication, and while on those pain meds, it is said that he, quote, tripped fucking balls. Side note, I'm quoting myself on that one because that's what I thought when I was reading the description of his pain. What really is said is that while hallucinating from his pain medication, he was actually picturing himself in scenes from Rosemary's Baby, and those with him at the time report that he yelled, quote, "Rosemary, for God's sake, drop the knife," at the top of his lungs while he was in the hospital. He would recover, and I'm not sure if this next part is considered part of the curse, because it's not on any of the lists that you can find, but when I find someone, I kind of do a deep dive into their life to try and find a little bit more about them. Rosemary's Baby was the last successful movie he was attached to. Whether it was him being an actor, producer, or director, he only had a few movies remaining. They all did not do well. He wound up passing away around 9 years after the movie released on May 31st, 1977. He was only 63. He died of a heart attack. So,
wow.
Pretty sad, pretty young. Now, this quote-unquote curse is one of those that kind of escalates. Chronologically speaking, it escalates. So, you start out with a couple of divorces, you wind up with a hospitalization, and now we come to Christophe Cometa. And Cometa was the composer who scored the film. And he was widely regarded as this amazing jazz musician. And having just rewatched That Thing You Do, I couldn't help but picture the drummer, Shades, thinking like this must be what he did after he got out of that band. And when I was looking up information on him, I found so many biographies about his life. And he's like this widely loved individual in the jazz music scene and in the composer scene who I've never heard of. And while the dates are a bit all over the place depending on where you look, I did confirm that near the end of 1968 / beginning of 1969, Cometa was attending a party. I'm guessing based off that date range, it was something for the holidays, maybe even New Year's Eve. Not much is known about what happened at the party, but apparently Cometa became involved in some roughhousing with a friend of his, like fucking around. And from what I can tell, from what everyone claims, this was not an intentional thing. But while like fake fighting with his friend, he wound up falling off what essentially equates to a steep rocky cliff.
Did he die?
He accidentally gets pushed off this cliff.
Accidentally?
And they all say like it was completely accidental. There's no one that was there that said like, oh, it was intentional. They were like, it's just a horrible, horrible accident. The injuries he sustained forced his body into a coma that would last for 4 months. Now, what's extra creepy about this one is that in the book, Rosemary's Baby, Rosemary has a friend that warns her of what's to come. Now, they're in the movie as well, but I don't know how much is paid attention to it. But the friend basically tells her, like, yo, dog, like, them people are evil. They worship the devil. And then that character is suddenly stricken with an unknown illness that causes, you guessed it, a coma. He stays in a coma and eventually dies in the book. And Christophe Cometa would be in the coma for 4 months before passing away. He never winds up waking up. He dies, I think, at 37 years old. So, horrible, tragic accident, and he never recovers from it. At this point is when William Castle begins to think the film is cursed and vocalizes that. It's the first time that someone marks down that the film might actually have some sort of curse associated with it. Now, the next part of the curse is complicated, so I'm going to break this down as best as I can, and then as this sort of unravels, I'll explain how we're going to handle it. So the next iteration is definitely the most famous, and it involves the director and his family, namely his wife. So this director, who some of you probably already know who it is, Rosemary's Baby was his first American movie. He had filmed movies, in particular in France, previous to this, and when it was being negotiated for him to take over for this movie, he was actually offered the prospect of directing a movie in 1969 after this one was over, and that's the one he actually wanted to do. And that's what got him to accept. And the studio guy that negotiated the deal said they didn't even care about the movie they gave him. Like, after Rosemary's Baby, they just wanted him for it because they really, really thought he would do a good job, which he did. And the director's wife actually auditioned and pushed really, really hard for the lead role in Rosemary's Baby. She was a known actress, but not a lead actress quite yet. So she did not ultimately get the role. Obviously, it went to Mia Farrow, and I already said that she was married to Old Blue Eyes, so you know that that's not the case. The director of Rosemary's Baby, for those of you who don't know, was Roman Polanski. And his wife that wanted that lead part so bad was none other than Sharon Tate. Now, I know those names ring a bell with just about everyone who listens to our show. For those of you who you don't know, in July of 1969, Roman Polanski would be leaving town for work to go film a movie in France. According to his autobiography titled Roman by Polanski.
Really?
Yeah. When he was saying goodbye to his wife, he had this grotesque thought of, quote, "You will never see her again." And then on August 8th, 1969, Sharon Tate, Jay Sebring, Wojciech Frykowski, I think I'm saying the name right, Abigail Folger, who was the heiress of the Folgers Coffee Company, and Stephen Parent were all among victims that were brutally murdered that night at Polanski and Tate's residence. Tate was also 8 months pregnant. Tate's blood was used to scroll the word pig on the front door. Now, this is, of course, as we all know, the first in the infamous Manson family murders. The Manson family and Charles Manson himself are most definitely a topic completely on their own because there's so much that goes into what happened there. So rather than dive into all of that 4 pages deep into the script, I will officially be covering that on a separate episode, which will be episode 131. Next episode is when I'm going to do it. We just watched Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which is a retelling of how that whole night went down.
It's like revisionist history.
It's like the revisionist history thing. And this actual topic has such a strong place in my mother's heart because she was young when this happened. She's still young, but she was very young when this happened, and it terrified her. And it was just so creepy of a thing. So when she watched Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, it was such a relief because she's lived for so long knowing what actually happened, and then to see some other version of it where something good happened was so nice for her. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was like cathartic in a way. She keeps saying, like, I want to thank Quentin Tarantino for making that movie. But unfortunately, that's not what happened. So she's been trying to get us to watch the documentary Helter Skelter, which is like 3 hours and 15 minutes or 30 minutes or something like that. And we're like, maybe. So we're going to sit down, or at least I am for sure, watch it with her, then dive into the research about this, and that's going to be my topic for episode 131. Unfortunately, that is not where the curse ends. So the curse continues with Roman Polanski and his actions years after this all went down. On March 10th, 1977, Roman Polanski drugged and raped 13-year-old Samantha Jane Gailey. He was arrested, charged, and then pled guilty to a lesser charge. He was actually charged with 5 separate counts of his criminal activities. He winds up pleading to this lesser count of like unlawful sex with a minor or something like that. On December 19th, 1977, he is sentenced to Chino State Prison for 42 days. He supposedly is there for an evaluation period to determine what his actual sentence will be. So he hasn't officially been sentenced yet, after which he is supposed to be sentenced. He gets released 42 days later, and he flees the United States. So here's the thing. He was supposedly only going to get probation. And then it came out that he might get more than probation, and he bounces. And there hasn't been a lot of things nailed down on this because it's a lot of he said, she said between the defense lawyers, the prosecutor, the judge, and Polanski. What I can tell you for sure is that he winds up in France when he flees, where he has remained since. He only travels to countries that will not extradite him back to the United States. He was arrested in Zurich in 2009. He was going to the film festival there, where he was going to receive a Lifetime Achievement Award.
Oh my God.
He got to the airport and Interpol fucking arrests him. He's in jail for 10 months while they review the extradition case. And in the end, a Swiss court rejects the U.S. request and releases him. So he is still at large and apparently still alive. I couldn't find anything about him dying.
Holy crap.
I honestly didn't look too hard. I just really, really hoped he was dead. So this curse has quite a bit of awful attached to it. I read a bunch of shit about that night where that all went down between him and that 13-year-old girl, including her accounts on what happened, about how he encouraged her to do a photo shoot. They were at Jack Nicholson's house, who was out of town.
Whoa.
Jack Nicholson's then live-in girlfriend, who is Angelica Houston, thought it was really fucking weird. They were in a room with the door closed, and she started banging on that door and told him to open it, until he just yelled back at her like, hey, we're just doing a photo shoot, leave us alone. And because she didn't hear anything from the girl, she thought maybe she's okay, and she did leave him alone. He, of course, had fucking drugged her. So it's just all this awful shit, and I was just going through it man, this dude directs this movie, and it's supposed to be this masterpiece, and he is just this horrible human being. No, she was, in 1977, she was 13, so when the movie was being made, she was 3. Yeah, she was not in the movie, but there's just so much to the Rosemary's Baby curse. There's so much attached to it, and I just remembered the other thing. So the hotel where they shot stuff at, in New York, in I don't want to say the date wrong, but the place right across the street from it is where John Lennon was murdered.
Wow.
Yeah, so I was going through this. I was like, there's so much like weird proximity to it, like Woody Allen, Roman Polanski, Sharon Tate, like all these different things. And it's a bizarre horror movie that was so hated when it was released by very, very religious and just moderately religious people at the time, where it just winds up being like, the director winds up raping a girl, and all this other stuff happens to the director's wife, and everyone associated with it thinks there might be a curse with it. And I was just going through it like,
Polanski's just cursed.
He sounds very cursed. He sounds awful. Like, there were a bunch of things when I was reading through it where I was finding like what people thought happened before they found out it was the Manson family. And they thought, like, he sacrificed his young, beautiful wife.
Holy shit.
For his, like, fame. Because at that point, he was, like, an untouchable Hollywood director. And, like, they thought the reason he left was that he wouldn't be blamed. And there was all these crazy theories about him being involved in shit. I was reading stuff about how Sharon Tate really wanted the role because she was really into the occult. And that some of her friends even quoted her saying, like, Satan isn't ugly, he's actually quite beautiful, or some creepy shit like that.
What?
So I was like, I will dig deeper into that for the Manson family shit.
All right.
When I do that topic. So I was joking around with Rob, and I was like, I should make my mom do next week's topic.
God.
She already knows so much about it, but maybe I'll just sit down and pick her brain. But that, my spooky friends, is Haunted Hollywood 6, Rosemary's Baby.
Cool. Thanks.
You're welcome for that horrible stuff.
Yeah, it's gross.
So before we move into our next topic, we are going to take a quick commercial break.
And we're back. Hello.
Hello, what's up? That
Welcome
was fun.
back. Welcome back to the second half. It's great.
All right, so fill our heads with tales of a haunted forest.
All right, so I have been watching Ghost Adventures in the background while doing homework or merchandising, shipping stuff out, stuff like that, like packaging.
I have similarly been listening to a soundtrack of someone taking a giant stinky shit because they sound about the same. I hate that fucking show so much.
So one of the episodes,
So
one of the episodes I watched was one all about like Dracula and Romania, things like that, Transylvania, wherever Dracula's from, Wallachia. I was inspired, I suppose, because I have heard of this forest before, and having it brought up again, I was like, okay, this is the topic I'm going to do. Because I keep coming across this forest, but I'm like, oh, I don't really want to cover it. But here we are. We're going to head on over to Romania ourselves, where the Hoia-Baciu Forest is located.
I will say, it does sound like something we've covered before, but we did extensive research into our own show, and I think we may have like mentioned it before.
We might have mentioned it.
Never a full topic, so I'm so glad you're diving into this one, because I've definitely heard of it. I have a lot
I wonder if maybe they mention it in I don't think they mentioned it in Castlevania.
They might.
I don't know.
It's
they talk about Wallachia and stuff like that.
But I definitely have a book that I go through for inspiration sometimes, and it has a haunted forest section, and that is in there. So, but I'm just really happy we're officially getting this one done, so hit us with it, Robin.
All right.
We definitely just took like a 6-minute break to make sure again that we haven't covered this. Just saying.
Right. It's been the location of supposed ghost sightings and the appearance of strange faces in photographs, as well as strange lights and UFOs. So this land is actually known to kind of be the Bermuda Triangle of Transylvania, which is not necessarily the right name for it because it's in Romania. It's just this weird thing. Anyway, it's located about 30 minutes or so west of the Romanian city of Cluj-Napoca. That's probably wrong how I pronounce it. I'm so sorry. And it's thought to be incredibly haunted or just bad news. Some people do say, though, some parts of the forest are good luck, so it kind of depends. The forest is named after a herdsman named Hoia-Baciu who disappeared in the forest with a flock of 200 sheep.
It's a lot of sheep to disappear.
It is a lot of sheep. The forest spans...
It's a bad situation. That was probably my worst joke of the show, but I grew up across the street from sheep, and I just wanted to do that.
The forest spans 250 hectares, which is about 618 acres, but that's a little less than 1 square mile.
Oh, wow.
So it's not
very
that
big
big.
at all.
Yeah, there was one site I saw where it was like you could literally just line a whole bunch of people up and walk the whole forest in a day.
Wow.
Like, if you wanted to search for someone, it wouldn't be that hard.
Sounds like spooky friend meetup at this super haunted forest.
It's not I'm not the best at math, or conversions, but I did try to look it up on the internet and try to like make sure I matched the hectares to the acres and then to this, like trying to match all these distances, right? Anyway, I hope it's somewhat accurate. It's probably not completely accurate, but it's really not a big forest. That being said, 200 sheep disappearing in that area is really hard to imagine. I mean, it's such a small area, and 200 sheep is a lot of sheep.
It's a lot. That really is. To never, ever see them again.
Yeah,
it's bizarre.
I'm just wondering, like, how you could just vanish with all those animals. Because wouldn't you at least see something exit one part of the forest somewhere?
Or like a corpse of a sheep somewhere, like bones. Even if it was picked clean by, like, animals or whatever, there should still be some sort of carcass.
Yeah, I think that's really strange, and I could kind of see how this forest got to be known as the Bermuda Triangle with things going missing like that. So those living near the area do make an effort to avoid the forest from fear of all the stories and legends that surround that forest. There was a certain tour company, like a tour guide, that was saying that when he and his friend wanted to start up the business of starting the tours, a lot of the locals were like, "Are you crazy? Like these foreigners are going to come and you're going to take them into this creepy forest and they're going to think you're going to steal their kidneys."
Wow, that's hilarious.
It's just such a strange place, you know? And there's so many stories that surround this forest. It's just a weird thing. And they're afraid that they themselves will vanish within the forest, which is totally understandable if you've grown up with these stories of these things happening. It definitely gave me like Aokigahara Forest kind of vibes that way. Locals absolutely refuse to enter once the sun goes down. It's just not a thing.
I think there's a settlement at the center of it that's living as if it were the 1800s to protect themselves from the horrors of the modern world.
Are you talking about The Village?
I was so sad that movie didn't have an actual monster in it. I just love it. And then the monsters were the humans after all.
I mean, okay, so we're going to spoil The Village because it's just
a shitty movie.
It's a bad movie, and it's so old. If you haven't seen it already and you're into horror movies, what are you doing?
What are you doing with your life? I saw it in theaters. I was so jacked.
When she crosses that wall and it's the modern world, I was like, what the fuck?
I was like, that's awesome. That's a cool twist. There better still be a fucking monster in there, though. I was like, I'm here for a monster. It was
just Adrian Brody the entire time?
It was just Adrian Brody dressed up like a monster the whole time.
Yeah. Stupid movie.
Damn it, Adrian Brody. You ruined everything.
He was good in The Pianist.
I actually really like Adrian Brody. I think he's a phenomenal actor.
The difference, I suppose, between the forest in Japan and this particular one is that there are a number of marked trails on this one, according to the internet. So there's a lot of marked trails that you can kind of walk on. And apparently there's even bicycle trails that have been added to this forest.
Don't tell Spooky Mom.
Kind of takes away from the spooky vibe, which is sad. But there are people that say it's just a nice place to go for a walk.
And never come back.
During the day, so not at night. So
gotcha.
I mean, it's a really pretty place to go during the day. But the legends certainly don't stop the occasional curiosity seeker from entering the forest. You know, it's just something it's a place that's really pretty. It's just has all these stories surrounding it, and people that want to look at creepy shit are like, oh, okay, hey, let's go. Those that do enter the forest claim that they were attacked by something within.
Did they knock on the tree that you see before you enter the forest? Like,
what?
You find the biggest tree and you knock on it. That's where knock on wood comes from. You're waking up the spirit of the forest, and it keeps the evil things at bay. That is 100% true.
No
I wrote
way.
a short story about it in college. I've already talked about this on the show
Really?
before. It was like the 15th time I've told Robin this. Someone that listens to all these episodes are like, he has talked about this before. Why is she so shocked? It's because she's my little Etch-a-Sketch. If you shake her a little bit, you can tell her all the things you told her before, and they're brand new again.
Sometimes your stories are like, oh my god, stop telling the same story.
Like what? Pick one.
I don't know.
Good.
Shit. Okay, anyway. So these people, they experience nausea, vomiting, anxiety. Some even experience extremes like scratching and burns. You might even leave with a rash, which is gross.
Forest STDs, not cool.
But I mean, okay, forests have like poison ivy, stuff
poison
like
oak,
that.
All that stuff. Yeah, good point.
They even say that the wind feels like it's saying something to you as it blows. Why are you laughing?
I'm just trying to figure out what the wind would be saying. I mean, obviously it wouldn't be in English, but I think it would
It's going...
Well, I think it more likely roughly translates like, you suck. No, okay, I know. I'm sorry that I'm still stuck on this joke, but I'm pretty sure the wind is blowing through and saying, so we've been trying to reach you about your car's extended warranty.
Oh, man. I don't even know if people are going to hear that. It's so quiet. Okay. As you leave, it's as if someone or something is just watching you as you reach the edge of the forest, probably because it wants to leave with you, but it can't. Kind of creepy. I think the scariest thing is missing time. So people that are exploring the forest will just lose hours.
Missing time is, like, scary. I have nightmares about, like, I've missed days, and I'm trying to figure out what the hell happened to me. That is really scary.
You have nightmares about that?
Yeah,
or
I do.
Does that actually happen to you?
No, I have nightmares about it, dickhead.
Okay. So many trees within the forest just kind of grow oddly. So they're curved in strange ways, apparently. We'll post pictures on our Instagram so you guys can check it out. But there's really no explanation for why these trees grow that way. Some of them grow in like spirals. Some of them grow out of the ground and they just grow like curved. It's so weird.
Is it really dark? Like, are they fighting to get to the light or something like that?
It's really not that dark because I think I sent you a picture of it dark and then I sent you a picture of it during the day and it looks really bright to me.
You sent me a picture of a plate flying through the air too?
Shut up. Anyway.
Okay, yeah, I won't spoil that.
There really aren't any explanations to why the trees grow this way. They just kind of grow in all sorts of different directions. And to me, it's like if the wind were blowing in a certain direction, they would all blow in that same direction, you know, or they would grow in that same direction. Like I've seen lines of trees where they're all growing slanted because the wind is constantly blowing in that direction.
Right.
But this is just not the case, right? So in 1994, the pine trees that were within the forest were uprooted and their logs were red, apparently, which is apparently strange. I don't know why. Maybe because the trees aren't supposed to be red. I don't know what color pine trees are supposed to be, you know? To me, pine trees are like Christmas trees. Those are pine trees, right? Yeah. So I've never seen a red pine tree. But
the blood from all the things lost in the forest.
Oh, that's fucked up, dude. It's also said that even the wildlife within the forest is strange. Like, they act strange. So there was one person that said they came across, their whole group came across a huge gray wolf. And all the wolf did was stare at them and then slowly keep walking. So I'm just like, maybe...
That wolf has a name. It's Nymeria, and it's a dire wolf. We all know that.
Anyway, so there have also been pictures that have been taken that seem to have strange shapes and figures in them that look kind of humanoid. Someone was saying that they took a picture and it looked like, not that they were photobombed, like actually photobombed, like if your dog jumped up into your picture or whatever. But a person seemed to be standing there in like older Romanian clothing.
That's fucking creepy.
Which is creepy. But I mean, you can stage that shit, right?
You absolutely can.
So, in the 1960s, there was a biologist named Alexander Swift that took photos of a flying disc-shaped entity in the sky right above the forest.
This is the one that I thought looked like a plate being thrown through the air, right?
Swift also reported having seen shadows following him through the trees as well while he was there. This launched like a steady increase in attention from others. On the morning of August 18th, 1968, Emil Barnera...
That is so weird, because it's like the same time period as the Rosemary's Baby came out.
So, this guy, 45-year-old military technician, took a photo of a flying saucer, that's the picture I sent you, above the forest circle. It was him, his girlfriend, and two other people. Those two other people really did not want to be mentioned in anything. At around 1:23 p.m., his girlfriend called out to him, saying that she saw something. And when he got to the clearing that she was in, he saw a strange, round craft that was metallic in appearance, reflecting the sunlight. And it flew out of the trees completely noiseless. And he took multiple pictures. So he took one picture, and it was moving so slowly, he was able to take up to 4 pictures, I think. And when Barnea brought this up to people, he had nothing to gain from making up a story about seeing an alien spacecraft, you know? he actually lost his job because the government labeled him as being crazy.
Wow.
It's just something where there was nothing to gain from him making it up. He saw that.
He destroyed his own life by doing it.
Yeah. In the 70s, this forest kind of became a hub for UFO sightings and strange things like that. People were just like, "Bro, we want to see aliens." But who doesn't want to see aliens?
Me.
I don't want to see
I'll
aliens.
raise my hand.
I just was with your mom earlier while she was watching The Vast Night, that movie that you guys were talking about earlier this
on
morning.
Amazon.
Yeah. And I really don't want to see aliens. It freaks me out. So
I'm guessing that movie's about aliens then?
Yeah, it's about aliens.
Okay, got it.
In 1993, Swift died, and all the photographs that he took went missing and haven't been found by anyone since. A few of them were published in a book by Adrian Patrut, who is a friend of Swift's, or was a friend of Swift's, in 1995, but the rest of the photos are still missing. The latest footage of possible UFO activity above the forest was taken in 2002, so 18 years ago, by two people from the nearby city who lived on the top floor of a building on the outskirts of their neighborhood, and they filmed it for about 27 seconds, describing it as a bright object and having been shaped like a cigarette that was about 50 meters long.
Wow.
So that's a weird shaped craft. It's not anything like the ones that were seen before, but I mean, time's passed, things evolve. They're like, instead of discs, we got to be long tubes.
I've heard of cigar-shaped crafts before, too.
Really?
Yeah, I've heard of that in a lot of different UFO sightings, and maybe it was just a big billboard that was, like, flying for vaping. Who knows? But I've definitely heard of similar-shaped crafts when it comes to UFO sightings.
All right. I did not know that, so that's kind of cool. It's thought that the forest is some type of portal to another world, like there's some time-traveling stuff going on or something. So many have disappeared that it kind of seems possible or plausible. There's also several stories of people returning from the forest. There are those that return from the forest but have no recollection of how they ended up there or how they spent their time in the woods. There is a more famous story or more popular story that keeps getting told over and over again about a girl who disappeared within the forest when she was 5 years old. And she came out of the woods 5 years later wearing the same dress she wore when she went in, and she had no memory of what had happened and could not tell anyone what she did during those 5 years. And the legend has it that she hadn't aged when she came out.
That's the freakiest part about that.
So it's like that's the weird time slip thing where it's like you go in there, weird stuff happens with time. You realize you're missing a few hours when you come out. You know what I mean?
Or years.
Or years in this case. That's just really creepy. There was one story I read where the woman went in. It seemed like time slowed down, like things started to slow down. And then it's like everything went blank. And then she came back too, and she had like a piece of ancient history in her pocket. Something from way long time ago in her pocket.
I wonder what it was.
I don't know. But these are just stories, you know what I mean? The total disappearances within the forest is believed to be over 1,000 people.
Wow.
And that's a lot of people.
For such a small forest,
such a small forest.
One or two is a lot for a small forest.
Though some have been found dead within the forest years later.
Oh, what a relief.
With no signs of trauma to their bodies.
Wow.
So that's kind of creepy. That reminds me of the Aokigahara forest thing too. Recorded history of paranormal activity that happens within the woods dates back decades, and legend has it that the forest is haunted because of Romanian peasants that were once killed in the woods hundreds of years ago. Again, very Aokigahara-like, where they took all these people into the forest and just killed them or let them die or whatnot, and it kind of kept them there and trapped them there. The souls of these people are somehow trapped within the forest boundaries, causing them to, in essence, kind of go stir crazy. Visitors claim to have sighted these spirits, claiming they see green eyes and heavy fog.
Green eyes? That's new.
Yeah.
I've never heard. I mean,
but
green eyes seem like something that actually exists, though. Like animals have green eyes.
Yeah, you always hear red eyes, but when you hear red eyes, it's like bad things have red eyes.
Right.
There are also rumors of floating heads and disembodied voices seen and heard throughout the darkness. I think with forests, though, and when the wind blows, you just hear weird shit. And that's just a normal thing, you know? But who knows?
And when you're in a forest, you definitely hear weird things as it's blowing through the trees. Like, just imagine being in a house and knowing, like, the sounds that the wind makes when it's whipping around, like, the corner or the edges of your house.
Yeah.
And it's like being in a forest, there's all these differently shaped trees. And
Lots of whistling.
Yeah, there's all these different
rustling.
passages, so you're going to hear stuff. And with trees as misshapen as they are in this place, the sounds are going to be different than a normal forest would sound.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah,
Interesting.
absolutely.
There's an area within the forest that people kind of just call the circle, which is where those people saw the UFO.
Gotcha.
It's probably one of the more prominent parts of the area. It's not exactly a circle, but it's a huge open area where no vegetation grows. There's just no trees. There's grass. There's just no trees. But when soil samples were taken to test what could cause that, the results came back with nothing. There was nothing stopping the possible growth of any of these plants, which is super weird. The circle is just kind of a dead zone when it comes to plants. So if you look at a picture of the forest from up above, you see all the trees, and then there's just this area that has nothing, which is, to me, super creepy.
Have they tested it for, like, radiation?
They have, which is why the soil samples, there's nothing stopping it from growing.
That's crazy.
Locals claim that this area is the home of the spirits, like the hub for all the paranormal who's its and what's its. That's where they live, and that's why nothing grows there. Someone online, though, was like, have people never heard of meadows? I don't know.
But it's like in the middle of a forest, and that's a circle. I mean, it's not a perfect circle, but it's a circle.
Love that band. JK.
I was going to make a perfect circle joke, and I was like, no, don't do it.
I think I make a perfect circle joke anytime anyone says it. Okay. Anyway, this belief has led to a number of people to use it as kind of a power center in a way. A tour guide for the forest claims that they once came across a group of about 60 people from Bucharest who were trying to open a gate into another dimension.
Just like, get the fuck out of here!
These barren areas could also be landing pads for UFOs, because they are different parts of the forest that have little tiny naked bits. So there's that. Maybe that's why the trees grow in strange shapes as well, because, you know, maybe they land blast out in certain areas. I don't know, fuck. Anyway.
While they're growing somehow.
There are other typical things that happen seemingly related to ghosts, like malfunctioning electronic devices. Cameras and other electronic devices just seem to stop working once someone enters the forest, but this can be explained away as a result of natural magnetic field type stuff or different things, you know. The floating lights seen within the forest have been photographed by many, but lights in the dark could also be a number of different things. The forest has been featured in a number of different shows, like Ghost Adventures, but also one called Destination Truth, during which they found a collection of bones, and those bones were identified as goat and chicken bones. I found it funny that they weren't sheep, since 200 heads of sheep disappeared in there.
That is funny.
It was just, I thought that was very strange. Like, why would there just be a random pile of bones, you know? Because animals don't do that, do they?
I don't know. Unless it's like a den. Like, I imagine a bear's den where they eat their prey or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think bears drag shit back into their dens, do they?
I have no clue. I am not an animal professional.
No, nor am I.
I gave my dogs a bath today. That's as professional as I get.
All I know that bears eat are picnic baskets, so...
Yogi.
Yes, correct. It's a Yogi Bear reference.
Anyway, aircraft are not allowed to fly in the area between 9 p.m. and 7 a.m. to prevent any strange lights from being photographed from above, which I thought was very strange.
That is very strange.
But it might be to rule out, like, if I photograph a light, it's not a plane, because planes don't fly over.
Putting a dead zone for flight somewhere is definitely not something that they take lightly. I'm guessing there's missile silos under this place, and that there you go. It's like you can't fly over because those are the certain times where, just in case, if they want to launch an offensive attack, like that's when we can keep it clear.
Apparently, there are tours offered that you can take that offer transportation to and from the forest. They even visit the renowned circle. You can even take part in your own paranormal investigation. One of the tour guides had a story where he was like, one time we had this dude, it was just a one-on-one tour, and all he could talk about was how much like death intrigued him and how it was just so weird. I was like, why do people do this?
I wouldn't take someone one-on-one for that, because they'd be like, so are you going to fucking murder me out here, bro?
If you are the adventurous sporty type, in July they do have what's called the Hoia-Baciu Night Run, where you race through a course between 10 to 20 kilometers or 6 to 12 miles long. It's fucking long, which is
not as long as a marathon.
But
it's longer than a 5K.
I can't run down the stairs without being out of breath.
Really? Down the stairs?
Both. I don't care. It doesn't matter. Stairs tire me, okay?
Down is just so much easier. But I appreciate your honesty.
I'll finish off with a phrase that some people use to describe the forest. It's only haunted if you bring your own ghost. So if you enter the forest with evil, negative thoughts, you might not get to leave.
Isn't that the one in Japan, too? Isn't that what they say? It's like, when you go in there, like, you're not likely to leave if you bring your trauma with you or whatever.
Yeah, because like, people go in there, like, depressed, right? And stuff like that. Yeah, that makes sense to me. But yeah, so very similar to that forest we've covered before. You can go back to that episode.
Episode 5.
Is it episode 5?
Yep.
How do you know that?
Because I've been going through the old ones, so it's just fresh in my memory.
Nice.
Good stuff. Haunted forests are very intriguing. They're also terrifying. This one being so small, though, if you just pick a direction and walk for about 15 minutes...
You should get out on the other side.
20 minutes, yeah, you should exit it. So the fact that people lose time in it... Time loss is just so creepy to me. It's in the category of extraterrestrials as things that scare the shit out of me. So the fact that that's associated with this forest is super creepy and means that we absolutely have to go.
Okay.
So we'll do a Spooky Friends meetup in the circle. We'll see what happens with the rest of 2020, and if we're all still here in 2021, maybe we'll figure something out for that. I'm being facetious. That would cost way, way, way too much. So, good stuff, Robin.
Cool.
I think that's just about everything we have for episode 130 of Scaryish. Again, if you have a story that you would like to submit to us, please email storytime@scaryish.com or go to our website, scaryish.com, and click on Contact Us. You can also hit us up on any of our social medias. We have Facebook, which is facebook.com/scaryish podcast. You can tweet at us at scarishpod, or you can Insta us at Scaryish Podcast. Robin, for folks who would like to donate to us, how can they do so?
So if you would like to support us financially, you can go to patreon.com/Scaryish Podcast. There's a whole bunch of different tiers on there. Tiers start at $8. So if you want to just donate $1, that'd be absolutely great. If you want to do one-time donations, there's Ko-fi, ko-fi.com/Scaryish Podcast. Those are one-time donations, and all your donations go to helping us upgrade our studio setup, keep us going, keep us motivated, keep more content coming.
Indeed. So thank you so much for listening to this episode, supporting us in every which way you can, because we appreciate all of it. But like I said, that's about it. So Robin, go ahead and sign us out.
Keep on creeping on, and we'll talk to you guys later.
Bye-bye.